Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, December 15, 2020, and it's a good time again to start the day with God and to begin the day in the presence of God. There is no better place. And each morning we have this wonderful privilege, and each morning that we come to the presence of the Lord, may He would grant us this opportunity also to be blessed by Him, to be empowered, to be anointed, so that we can continue to do what He wants done. A blessing, never a burden. A solution, never a problem. That's what God wants done. And He wants us to become showcases of His grace and mercy. I say grace and mercy because at the end of the day, all that we have are just graces from the Lord. We don't deserve it, but God saw that we need it, and it is given to us, and His grace. We we cannot brag for the things that is grace. Yeah, but we can just be humble and enjoy and celebrate it um, as an expression of God's love towards all of us. Today, our reading is Proverbs chapter 15 and Genesis chapter 36 to 40. And I talk about springboards towards the realization of dreams. No, because our reading is Genesis 36 to 40. We'll talk about Joseph the dreamer today. One of the, you know, characters in the Bible that I really one would like to read often is the story of Joseph. Like I love to hear stories about zeros becoming heroes, nobody becoming somebody. Stories about how God works in the life of a person, how God builds his life, how God leads him, how God uses even the the desire of the enemy to destroy. How God reverses that and use that as a springboard. We call that at times a stepping stone or a blessing in disguise. But there is no such thing as blessings in disguise. Everything is under the will of God. And if God has, put a plan and a purpose and a dream in your heart and you believe it with all your heart, it will come to pass. It is always possible that that would be converted to reality. So dreams can be converted to reality. People might not believe that. There might be a lot of naysayers, like people nega, and pessimist, skeptical, doubters. There's so many bashers. But then, if you believe in that dream that God is placing in your heart, it will just be a matter of time. It will be converted to reality. And so, um, we'll hear that today from the story of Joseph. Dreams can be converted to reality, but the journey towards its realization might not be that easy. Yeah, whatever it is, no, that the mind conceives and believes it can achieve, no, according to Napoleon Hill. But then not without a price. The journey towards the conversion of a dream is not easy. There might be struggles and challenges, and difficulties along the way. But if you hold on to that dream, if you cling on, if you hang on to that dream, and one day at a time, amazing thing can happen. And one day you'll just be surprised. Whoa, the dream that God has placed in my heart has been indeed converted to reality. And it's an opportunity to praise Him, an opportunity to glorify Him, magnify Him, exalt Him in our lives. And so let's begin with our reading. Um, when we look at the life of Joseph, he experienced circumstances in life that he has no control. Like, for example, he has no control that his dad would love him so much and that he would be favored among all the sons of his dad. He didn't have control over that. He didn't have control over the attitudes of his brothers towards him when they were envious or jealous or they were irritated, annoyed of him. He didn't have any control with that. He didn't have any control about him being likened, being sold even to the merchants of Egypt. He didn't have any control. He didn't have any control experiencing, you know, being liked and desired by the wife of Potiphar, a very beautiful woman during that time. And the wife of Potiphar liked him so much, and she would even invite him to, sleep with him each day. But Joseph didn't have control over that. Joseph didn't have control over like him being accused of raping, um, harassing the wife of Potiphar, and being put to prison. He didn't have control over that. He didn't have control, like being like um, by the warden of the prison cell. He didn't have control. But in all of those, he remained faithful. That's one good thing with Joseph. Uh, he remained faithful. Remained true to his dream. He knew in his heart that God has something in store for him, and he believed that. He believed that so much. And indeed, no, all of those experiences became springboards to success. From the prison cell, from the dungeon to the throne, amazing. From zero to hero, from being a slave to becoming the second to Pharaoh in Egypt, from a slave to a governor of Egypt. Awesome, awesome story. That's why I like, there are like many of us who can relate to that. But his experience was really different. And it stands out. No, it stands out among the rest. So let's begin reading Genesis chapter 37, verse 3 to 11. Now Israel loved Joseph, like Jacob, his dad, more than any of his brothers because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. And he said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream that and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I, your brothers, actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. His dad loved him, made an ornate robe for him. The brothers, the other siblings, felt that he was favored and they got jealous. And all the more when Joseph shared his dream that every one of them will bow down to him. And of course, hey, who are you? You know, um, you're not the firstborn. You're even like the youngest during that time. Because after Joseph, they had another brother named Benjamin, and Jacob loved him too, because these two, Joseph and Benjamin, were born from Rachel, and they were born on when Jacob was already old. No, Jacob had four wives like Leah, and then Rachel, Zelpah, and Belha. And out of these four wives, he had like 12 children, 12 sons and a daughter, only one daughter, and his name was Dinah. And so he has 13 children. And Joseph stood out among the 13 in the eyes of Jacob, especially so um, when maybe, Joseph was a young boy that have demonstrated so much potential, because Joseph was handsome, and later on we would know that he was handsome, he was cute, and he was very obedient to his dad. His dad would tell him, "Hey, my son, you bring food to your brothers there in the field," and Joseph would not complain. He will just obey his dad, and maybe no wonder why he became the favorite, because he was not very assuming, you know but he can express himself like the dream that he had. And and because his brother got jealous of him, one day they told him, "Hey, Joseph, can we go to Dothan?" And then they went to Dothan, and they made a plot. Let's kill our brother. We don't like him, let's kill him. But then Reuben and Judah, the older siblings, told the other brothers, "No, no, no, don't do that. Are we going to kill our brother? Or maybe we'll just put him in a well. There was an empty well, and so they put him there." But Joseph, just submitted to them. Like, if you kill me, then it's up to you. You kill your brother. But then they saw this merchant, Egyptian merchants, and they have decided, no, instead of us killing him, we'll just sell him. So they sold him to the Egyptian merchants. And so the Egyptian merchants brought Joseph to Egypt and then sold him to Potiphar. He's like a, a, a leader, an officer in the army, in Pharaoh's army. And so this was what happened. Genesis 39, chapter 39, verse 1 to 6. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. The Lord was with Joseph, and this is what really matters. The Lord was with Joseph, so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessings of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. Um, so Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. And this is how the Bible describes him. And he's very responsible. He's very well built and very handsome and very trustworthy. And so, uh, like Potiphar didn't concern himself of anything in the household. He has entrusted everything to Joseph. And he continued to prosper. The reason why? Not because Joseph was good, but because the Lord was with him. Because God had something in mind for Joseph. He was not created to become a slave forever. He was created to impact the world, to make a difference. God, even before Joseph was born, had in mind that he would be the second to the Pharaoh in Egypt. But he has to journey. There is a process towards becoming. And he has to go through all of this because everything connects and connects to other things. And Genesis 39, verse 7 to 8. And after a while, his master's wife, the wife of Potiphar, took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." Yeah. But he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" Hey, ma'am, um, Your husband loves you so much, and he has entrusted everything to me except you because you are his wife. And I cannot do that. You might be so pretty, you might be so beautiful, you might be so desirable, but I cannot do that. I cannot betray your husband who, you know, loved me and entrusted his household to me. And Joseph didn't even say, "Na, I don't want to sin against your husband, but I don't want to sin against God." And every day, the wife of Potiphar would always, come near him and, ask him, beg, hey, Joseph, come to bed with me. Joseph, Joseph. So every day, until one day, Joseph entered his room because he was a slave. And so maybe to clean. And then the wife of Potiphar, you know, ran towards him, grabbed him, and Joseph ran. I don't know. Um, he ran. He ran away from Potiphar's wife. And then what happened was, the wife of Potiphar like took hold of his cloak, and she kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story: that Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make a sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. That Hebrew slave that you brought here almost raped me. And so, of course, the husband got so mad. And here, Genesis 39, verse 19 to 23. When his master heard the story, his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me." He burned with anger. And Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. And so the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. God was Joseph's most important ally because the Lord was with him. He was successful. He bloomed wherever he was planted. And that's a wonderful encouragement. Now, if the Lord is with you and He has granted you favor or you have earned favor in His eyes, you would bloom wherever you are planted. Wherever seasons and life, circumstance would bring you, you would prosper. And Joseph was like that. He was there in prison and he became next to the warden. But during the time, the baker and the cupbearer, those that are very, very close to the Pharaoh, was imprisoned because the Pharaoh was displeased with them. And that became a connection for Joseph. You know how providential care of God works? It's amazing. It's all providential care. And I look at even at my life, oh no, there's so much providential care. You met this person along the way, you met this person, and this person leads you to this and that. This person introduced you to this person, and that person introduced. And then, without you knowing, slowly you get to improve and improve and improve and improve in your life because God has sent people to bless you and you became a blessing to them too. That is why we say that the best day of the person's life, of any man's life, is when he meets the person that God has sent to bless him. It was not an accident that the cupbearer and the baker was placed in prison. God allowed it to happen because it was very important because they have to meet Joseph or Joseph has to meet them and they will be Joseph's springboard to the throne. It was awesome. Again, going back, Joseph had no control that his dad loved him and he was favored in the eyes of his dad. But it has to happen so that his brothers would get jealous of him. Joseph didn't have any control that his brothers would get jealous of him. But it has to happen so that his brothers has to, sell him, has to plot something to harm him. It was not an accident that the Egyptian merchant happened to pass by, that road in Dothan during that time. It has to happen because they have to bring Joseph to Egypt. And you know, um, Joseph didn't have control that he would be sold to Potiphar and he would become a slave in Potiphar's household. But when you look at Joseph, he might be working as a slave, but there was this princely character in him. He was well built, he's handsome, I know he's intelligent, and so he was smart. God was with him. Of course, even if you're a slave, but you cannot act. He didn't act like a slave. Yeah. And he became very attractive, especially to the wife of Potiphar, because he was a slave. But then the way he speaks, the way he works, the way he does things, it's not like he's a slave. He stood out among so many slaves, and even Potiphar's wife liked him. Joseph didn't have control over that, but it has to happen. It has to happen in the grand scheme of God, so that Joseph would go to prison. And when he was there in prison, Joseph didn't have any control that the warden would like him. There must be something in his personality, a very likable person, and the warden liked him and granted him favor. He was a prisoner, but not just a prisoner. He was the head. He's like the commander. He's like the leader of the mayores, like in prison cell. He had a lot of privileges. And he was placed in a cell where all the king's people are placed. And so it's all the busyo. We call that in the Kwan as the busyos. He stayed there at the busyos cell, all the bosyo in the prison cell, he was included in there. And so he was favored. But anyway, I don't have much time. Um, Joseph had a dream. It its conversion to reality was not, didn't happen overnight. It took a process. But one thing with Joseph, he remained true to the dream. He remained faithful to God, and true enough, God allowed things to happen, worked his providential care, arranged events in his life, provided him with people to help that dream be converted to reality. And so, I don't know about us. I don't know about you. I know the Lord has something in store also for you. But then, if you see that dream in your heart, you know, and it's a God-given dream, hold on to it. And no matter what happened, yeah, keep on having, visualizing that in the mind, verbalizing that with our mouth, and then work towards its materialization, materialize it, work its day because it works if we work it, and then one day we'll just be amazed. It will be realized. Let's pray, everyone, and just thank the Lord today. Our dear Father in heaven, dear Lord, thank you so much again, God, for this morning and for this wonderful privilege to come before you and be reminded, oh God, that whatever dreams that you have placed in our hearts that can be converted to reality, God. Thank you so much, God.